All right, welcome everyone again. Today we will be talking about something very important for me as well personally. Specifically how to manage stress and overwhelm at work mindfully. And why I say it's important for me personally, because I have been trying to find my way to approach work for quite a long time, and I've been trying a lot of techniques. And since I'm working in mindfulness and I'm deeply interested in mindfulness, I've been testing different approaches and techniques myself. So in this webinar, I will be sharing some of them that I found really efficient for myself. So it's a little bit like sharing my heart. And I hope that you will find it interesting, you will find it useful, and that you will also share your stories and your experience. We will have some time at the end, hopefully, for a bit of a chat. Okay, so before we go in, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about ASEA that I'm representing today. ASEA is a conscious business consultancy that offers trainings, workshops, consultancy, and also travel experiences that are built in a retreat and expedition kind of style. That all are anchored in sustainability, mindfulness, and transformation. And ASEA is on a mission to support businesses and individuals behind them, so professionals, in creating and expanding positive impact on the planet, on people, and on the profit through inner development, inner growth, and transformation. So what we will be looking at today, we will start with a mindful pause, because what did you expect? This is a webinar about mindfulness. So we'll not only be talking, but also testing some things. And then we'll be looking at why mindfulness at work is important, and we'll talk about what is mindfulness actually. And then we will also look at the mechanism of stress and how it works and how it affects our body and our mind, and why it is actually bad. And then we will switch to more practical parts and look at some techniques on how to reduce stress in your working environment and how to manage stress in the working environment if it arises. And then we will do one more practice before going into the Q&A and the discussion space. Okay, so as I said, the first practice, let's just call it mindfulness pause. It can be called in any possible way, but the idea is to arrive in this space, because I don't know how is it for yourself, but for myself, I had quite a stressful day. I had to prepare a lot of things, and I just jumped to this webinar from another webinar. So I really need some anchoring, some grounding, and this is what I suggest you to do as well. So I suggest you to invite you to just sit in a comfortable posture, pay attention to how you're sitting. If you're crouching, this is the moment to keep your spine straight. And then if it feels comfortable to you, then I invite you to close your eyes. And simply taking a few full breaths here. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And while you are breathing, just notice what's happening around you and what's happening inside of you. Look back at what has already happened today and allow yourself to let go of that, so that you can arrive into this moment, into here and now, and be fully present. And simply keep breathing. Breathe in and out. In and out. And with your next inhale, try to deepen it a little bit. Take in a little bit more air. And then on the exhale, make it a little bit longer. And again, inhale. Take in slightly more. And exhale slightly longer. Inhale and exhale. Notice this present moment, life that is happening right now. And allow yourself to be here. Stop going back to your past, revising it, rethinking it, and stop running into the future, planning things, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet, but simply being here and now, where your life is truly happening. And now take one more full breath in and full breath out. And when you feel ready, gently open your eyes if you had them closed. And I really hope that now you feel more grounded, more present, maybe more calm. I certainly do. And I also invite you to try to take this state of being grounded, calm throughout this webinar, and check on yourself throughout this 45, a little bit less now, minutes, how you feel, if your mind is going into the past or into the future, and if it does, simply bring it back to the present moment. All right, beautiful. And yeah, I also wanted to ask you to reflect on this little mindful pause, and yeah, ask you if you could type in the chat how you felt this practice, how it was for you, what you noticed, and if you notice any difference in your body and your mind before and after the practice. Just shoot a little message in the chat. Thank you so much, and we will continue. And we will begin by looking at why mindfulness at work is actually important, why it's even worth to talk about that. Well, it's not a secret anymore that we live in a high-speed world that just keeps spinning and spinning faster and faster. We also live in a multitasking world where we are required to do many, many things at the same time and finish a million of different tasks in a single day. And that, of course, affects our mental health, our physical health. And despite the belief that multitasking takes us further, it actually negatively affects our productivity. And as a cause, it's as an effect, it also reduces our creativity and makes us unhappy. And I also have some statistics here that I found really alarming. They come from the report of the Headspace. You probably know Headspace. It's one of the biggest apps for meditations and mindfulness. And in their annual report, they showed that nearly half of all employees and also more than 60% of CEOs, they say that the majority of all of their stress in life comes from work. And that is quite alarming given that we are working for something like thirds of our life. And just imagine if we are being stressed and overwhelmed for a third of our life, of course, no doubtly it has effects on our mental and physical health in the long run. Moreover, over 70% of employees, they say that work stress has negatively impacted their physical health, and also around 40% of employees, they say that stress coming from work has caused them some severe mental problems and even suicidal thoughts. But there is good news that we can use mindfulness to cope with all of that. And the research is even proven that just 10 days of practicing guided meditations and mindfulness practices can reduce level of stress by 14%. How can we apply mindfulness at work, and what are the benefits actually? So mindfulness in general has been proven to have a positive effect on our brain and our body, increase our focus and productivity, improve our moods, our satisfaction in life, and happiness in general. Also, it has been proven to improve brain health in general, because actually researchers found that the consistent practice of mindfulness affects the brain function, and more specifically, it helps to grow more gray mass that prevents some brain issues, especially those that are caused by aging. And also it reduces stress and anxiety, because mindfulness has been proven to shrink your amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for for fear and the reaction to stress. So with our amygdala getting smaller, we gain more resilience and resistance to stress and anxiety. And mindfulness can be largely applied at work. We can use it at any moment during the day, during the planning, during the meetings, time management, when we're making decisions, when we are doing tasks, communicating with others, solving conflicts. It can be applied and as I said, any moment during the day. But what is actually mindfulness? Despite some wrong beliefs, mindfulness is not only meditation, it's not only about sitting with your legs crossed and eyes closed and trying to not think about anything. Mindfulness is way larger of a concept. And according to some definitions, mindfulness is a process of actively noticing new things or anything around you. It's also awareness that arises when we pay attention to the moment on purpose and non-judgmentally. And this is the definition that resonates with me the most. So mindfulness, it's for me, at least, it's this process of paying attention to whatever is going on right now, right here, intentionally. So I set an intention that I will pay attention to my surroundings, my life that's happening right now, and I don't apply any judgments to it. So I accept everything that is happening, never whether it is good or bad, whether I judge it as good or bad. I just take it all in, I sit with it, I watch it, and pay attention to the present moment. And mindfulness is working on three mechanisms. So it has three aspects, which are intention, attention, and attitude. And I think I have it on the next slide. But now, once again, about some misconceptions around mindfulness. So mindfulness is not a relaxation technique. It's not meant to relax us, even though it is one of the goals that we are searching for when we're practicing mindfulness, but it's not the destination. It's not the final goal to help you relax, but it's more than that. It's not necessarily a spiritual practice, even though you yourself can decide where you want to take your practice, and we're all different. We all choose what to believe in, so there is nothing wrong about having making mindful practice your spiritual practice, but it is not it at the core. It's not about creating a special state in your mind, seeing things or not thinking. It's not about trying to figure things out or stop your thoughts, because actually it is almost impossible to stop your thoughts. It is possible to clear your mind for some time, but it is just a very basic function of our brain to think. So it is a very false belief that when we're practicing mindfulness, we need to stop the thoughts that are coming into our mind. What mindfulness actually is the foundational capacity, because everyone is capable of practicing mindfulness. It is the skill that is wired in us, and everyone has access to it. It's a training for your brain. It's an exercise for your brain, you might call it. And as any exercise, it requires some consistency. It requires self-discipline. And this is what, from my experience, throws most of people off and away mindfulness practice at the beginning, because it does require consistency. It does require, yeah, some sort of self-discipline, staying on track and pushing yourself to practice, and not just say that not quitting because it might seem boring or it might seem difficult. And that takes us to the next point. It is simple, but it's not easy, because it is not really easy to stay focused and train your brain. But it is worth it, and it is accessible to everyone. As I said before, it is a skill that we all have, and it can be practiced at any moment of the day, in any kind of environment, so you don't need a specific setting for practicing mindfulness. And it's also about seeing things clearly and seeing things the way they are. And that takes us to those three mechanisms of mindfulness, which are attention, intention, and attitude. So when we're practicing mindfulness, we are looking at a specific thing, or we're looking at the present moment, and we are checking on our attention, where it is present now, where it is placed now. We are checking on our intention. We're checking on what's going on inside of us when we are looking at the thing, when we are experiencing a certain thing, and also what is our attitude to the what is our relationship to this experience. So again, what is our emotional state, what emotions and reactions this experience causes, and maybe can we change, if we can change this reaction. And essentially, the mechanism, the technique of mindfulness is placing your attention on a specific object. It can be anything. If we are meditating, it can be breath. If we are eating, we can just bring our attention fully to the food that we are consuming. If we are walking, then we can bring our attention and place it on the movement itself or our surrounding. We can even practice mindfulness when we are washing dishes by placing our attention fully on the process of washing dishes and really submerging ourselves in this feeling of water and soap and the movements of you doing the dishes. This is why mindfulness is so accessible. It can be applied to anything, because it's basically just simply about placing your full attention, your full focus, and being present in the moment, in the activity that you are doing. And as this little graph shows, it's usually not as simple as straightforward. We cannot just simply place our attention where we want it to be and let it sit there. because our mind tends to wander off and go somewhere else. Usually it is the past or the future. So next time you can also experiment and yeah, next time you find yourself thinking about something that is different from what you are doing right now, check whether you are thinking about something that has already happened or something about that hasn't happened yet. Because usually our mind tends to be in the past or in the present and rarely in the present moment. So yeah, the practice of the mindfulness is shifting your attention continuously from your mind wanderings back to the focus of your attention. Okay, and now let's talk about stress and why it happens that we get stress sometimes, maybe very often, how it affects our body and how we can deal with that. So essentially, stress is a chemical, an emotional, physiological reaction of our body to a specific trigger that is called a stressor. And the stressor can be anything. It can be a deadline that is approaching. It can be a boss that is screaming at you. It can be your boss moving in front of your nose, and even though you had an important meeting to attend. And then the stress is actually the response to that trigger. So the stress is not actually what is really happening, but just the way we react to it, which means that what we consider stress might not be really stress at all because it's just the situation that happens. And stress is caused by our reaction, our response to this stressor. It's also interesting and important to understand that stress is an evolutionarily conserved response to a perceived threat. And essentially, there is nothing bad and wrong about stress because it was wired in our brains, in our bodies to help us survive. Back in the day when there would be a predator suddenly appearing, stress would help our bodies to function faster and help us flee and survive. However, currently in now our this in our world, we don't really have the threats. We don't usually have the threats that have the same importance as before. So we're not really focused on our primal survival needs. However, our body is so used to perceiving threats and reacting to that we find triggers for stress in other things, and mostly and nowadays mostly most of these triggers are mental. So our body is still and our mind is still triggering this fight or flight response, even though the perceived threat might not be that threatening in the end. And once the situation has happened, then we place our attention on it, then the emotions arise and the physical response arises, and then we react in a certain way. We all react to stress differently. It might be getting sad, getting disappointed, anxious, or it might be might manifest itself in anger and throwing things around and screaming at other people. But what is important here is, as I mentioned before, stress is not necessarily the thing that happened, but just the way we react to it. And that is a good news because that means that we can change the way we react to the thing, even if we cannot change the situation itself. But how stress affects our body and our mind and why we consider it bad, even though it was meant to help us survive at the beginning. Well, it is related to parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system, among other things, which are two primary types of neural systems in our bodies. Parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for relaxation, for the state of our mind and body when we are relaxed, and all the organs, all the parts of our body are functioning in a normal, let's say, way. And sympathetic system, it activates when we have a stressful event, a stressful situation. And in that moment, the blood starts running faster, our heart rate increases, so everything starts functioning faster in an accelerated mode in order to help us survive. And it is good if we have a threat that we need to escape, but it is bad when stress becomes chronic and we have this accelerated functioning of our body as a standby and then as an always on mode, because then it causes all the parts of the body run out and wear out fast, and that can lead in the long term to very severe health problems such as insomnia and headaches and depression, digestive problems, tense muscles, high blood pressure, high sugar level in blood, you name it. So there are many, many symptoms caused by chronic stress that can lead to severe health problem in the long term. And this is why it is very important to pay attention to the way we react to stress. Also, given that we have the opportunity and we have the power to change the way we react to stress. So how can we actually react to it? And as the first thing to look at is how we can actually reduce stress, because before finding a way to react to this stress, we need to understand how we can reduce stress in our working environment in the first place. And here I will be talking about some things that organizations of mindfulness and mental health organizations recommend, but also some techniques that I tested myself and I know that they work for me. Even though everyone is different and it doesn't necessarily mean that it will work for you, we're all unique. So my message here is to simply take it in, maybe some things you will find interesting and you will want to try them out. But in the long term, I recommend you to try different things and find techniques and routines that work for you and help you. So the first thing that I also applied in my work life was to notice the patterns. The first thing here is to, of course, pay attention and to learn how to pay attention to the way you work, to the stressful events that appear. And then with this strengthened awareness, you might notice that there are some patterns in your working life, that the same stressful situation appears again and again with some regularity, or you react to the stressful events in the same way again and again, and it causes you some mental struggle. And then once you have noticed these patterns, you can ask yourself, can you change the situation itself to go out, to break free from this stress circle? If you can, then this will be the moment for you to take a step towards changing the situation, to eliminate these stressful events and these triggers. And if you cannot, then you might ask yourself, can I change the attitude to the situation? Maybe it's not as bad as I believe it is. Maybe it's not as stressful. Maybe the world will not collapse if I don't meet this deadline or if I don't finish this presentation tonight. And this is something that I chose to do in my life as well. Just looking at the triggers that I have in my life and changing them or changing my attitudes towards them. The next thing that I recommend that works for myself is adjusting the way you work. We all have different styles of working. Our bodies and our brains as well, they work differently. So the working style of your colleague, for example, waking up early and starting directly with the emails and then going into the meetings might not work for you and might cause you a lot of stress. So I really recommend exploring different styles of work if you haven't done it yet and finding what suits yourself. And also, once you have realized what is your ideal scenario of working, schedule mindful breaks in there. Take your time to really practice these little mindfulness practices throughout your day. And as I said before, it will take some level of self-discipline because you do need to stay consistent with them. I myself am still struggling with keeping consistency with my mindful breaks throughout the working day, but I'm working on that. And what I mean by mindful breaks can be meditation. Let's say you take 5 minutes at a certain moment during the day just to close your eyes, or even leaving them open, and breathing, focusing on your breath, focusing on your body. It can be mindful movement, stretching, as the girl on this picture is doing, or going for a walk after lunch, or even having the habit of eating not in front of your computer. I know that is really, really common among people, especially those who work remotely, to work directly at the laptop. And it is extremely bad, even though I myself also do that sometimes. But this is also something to pay attention to and even schedule those lunches and snacks away from your desk. Closing your day mindfully is also very, very important because I can imagine. I hope that I'm not the only one with this thing, but you might find it sounding familiar that when you are closing your laptop, you're finishing your day, you are going for a walk, but your mind is still there. Your head is still finishing the task that you haven't finished, or your mind is still talking to that colleague and imagining different ways of putting that instead of the way you said it. So it is very, very important to be able to take yourself out of this working day, out of your head and into the present moment, back to the present moment. And here I wanted to share the technique that I use myself. I call it mental office. And I believe this might work well for people who work remotely, who don't actually go to physical office and have to work from their home place, for example. A mental office is a mental space, an imaginary space that you create for yourself as your office, as the space in your head, in your mind, where all the work-related tasks are being operated. You can be creative with that. For myself, I imagined the whole little cozy space of an office with little plants, with big windows, with a tea shelf that I go to every morning when I start my day. I try to keep it tidy. I try to keep it the way I want, to keep my head, to keep my mind healthy, clean, calm, tidy, organized. I don't always succeed in it, but I try. And then when I finish my day, when I close my laptop, when I say, okay, I'm done with work for today, instead of simply continuing to think about those work-related stuff, I also imagine that I go out of my mental office, of this little space that I imagined in my head. I close the door and I put the key into my pocket and I don't go back there before the next morning. And if any thoughts, any intrusive thoughts about something from work comes in, I imagine it as a person who's coming to my office and starts knocking on the door of my mental office. But sorry, it is closed for today. So I just literally say myself that we're out of office, please come back during the working hours. So in this way, I encourage myself not to think about that. And for me, this little technique of mental office really helps. So I invite you to check it, to try it, and let me know later if it works. Or maybe you have already been using that. And also raising awareness and fostering open communication, mental health. I can never stop advocating for this, for this, for creating safe space, sorry, in your working environments, on sharing any mental struggles that you're going through, so to also inspire others to talk about these things. Because somehow in our corporate world, it's not seen very well to share if you have some mental struggles, if you are even just stressed, if you are overwhelmed. We usually don't share bad stuff. We only talk about good things. If you ask me how my day was, I would most probably share some good things. And if it was a bad day, I would just say, yeah, it was okay. However, it is really important, and I believe in it with all my heart, to raise awareness on this, because mental struggles are real, stress is real, overwhelm is real, and by fostering this open communication, we can create more safe and inclusive environment for everyone to be able to express and share if something is not working. And seek help if they need it, even if help for you would be just taking one task off your shoulders and delegate it to another colleague, or being honest with yourself and telling your boss that you cannot take this task on. You just don't have capacity to do that, or you don't have capacity to finish this task by this given deadline. Right. So the next thing we will be talking about is how to handle stress if it arises. We first talk about how to reduce stress mindfully. And now we'll be talking about what's to do if the stressful situation is here. It has arrived. What's to do? Your head is getting full of stuff. It's getting heavy. Your heart is bumping. Your heart rate is accelerating. You are your body is numb. You don't feel your body anymore because you're all in your head. You feel fearful, anxious. What's to do in this situation? And here I will present a few techniques again. And the first one is calming breath. And this is something that works for me all the time. As a meditator, I know that breath is a very powerful anchor for focus and from bringing yourself back into your body. And for this specific technique, I usually use something that is called box breathing. Probably some of you already know this technique. It's very simple. And why it's called box breathing? Because we inhale, we hold our breath, exhale, and hold again on a count of 4 each time. And to make it easier, you can even imagine that you are drawing a box, like a square, like the one that I added here. So inhale, you count 4, then you hold, you count 4, exhale, count 4, and hold again for count 4, and you keep breathing like this for a few rounds. Usually just 10 rounds like that already has a very, very positive effect. The second one is naming emotions, and it's generally just awareness and mindfulness practice for bringing more awareness into the way you react to things and your body and your mind reacts, what it is about. Whenever you feel stress, whenever you feel a negative emotion, a negative feeling that arises in you, simply name it, give it a label. And you can even say it out loud if you are in a space where you can do that. Say, this is disappointment. You can even say this is disappointed and not I am disappointed, because this is just the feeling that you are experiencing. It will come and go. But by labeling it, you like put a face on it. You look into its face, and then it's easier to work with it and let go or accept. So this is also something that you can do throughout your day whenever you feel irritated, something just triggered you, and you want to scream at that colleague that that told you something not nice, or like added one more task on your table, and you just want to tell them straight into their face everything that you think about them. Stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and then recognize what is going on inside of you and name those emotions that are coming up. The other one is also a nice technique that I find really engaging and just fun to do. It's called 3-2-1 coping technique. And it invites us to take a pause, take a break, and bring ourselves back to the body and out from our heads, just for a moment. So how do we do that? Whenever we have a stressful moment, an overwhelming moment, and we feel like we're all right here, our body is numb, we're thinking so many things at the same time. Again, we're taking a break, taking a full breath, and then first we look around and we pick 3 things that we see. And you can also, to make it more fun, you can pick 3 things that you usually don't notice in your space. And then you bring your awareness to what you hear, and you name 2 things that you can hear at that moment. And finally, you bring your awareness, your attention to your body, and you pick up and you name 1 body sensation that is present right now. It can be that you're feeling warm, or you're feeling cold, or your back hurts, or there's some tension in your shoulders, something like this. It doesn't matter, just 1 body sensation. And going through this scheme really helps you to overcome this overwhelming feeling of so many thoughts, so many emotions coming at you at the same moment, and bring you to here now. Because usually when you're going through a stressful event, it's mostly most stress is happening in your head, because we start imagining things and worrying about things that haven't happened yet. But then if you bring yourself back to your body, you ground yourself, look around, and then you realize that the world is not ending. Everything is still okay. Right now, in this present moment, you're still here, you're safe, life goes on. So this is also something that I found very, very powerful. And last but not the least, this is the practice that I've also tried for myself, and I really liked it. It's called sense foraging practice. And it's a little bit similar to 3-2-1 coping technique, but more, yeah, it has more elements, because we are looking at more senses. This specific technique is based on a book from Norman Tharp, who is the associate professor in psychology from the University of Toronto. And he wrote the whole book on the importance of paying attention to our senses as the way to stop overthinking and stop getting overwhelmed and being all in our heads, and bringing ourselves back to the body, and using senses as this tool to come back, to bring yourself back in touch with this reality. So how it works, we can actually, we will actually practice it right now, but I will explain you how it will go. So is the step 1, we will notice the feeling. If you are stressed right now, which I hope you're not, then you can just focus on this feeling. If you're not stressed, if you're relaxed, which I hope for, then you can, for example, bring a memory of a stressful and overwhelming experience from your recent days. Please do not pick something very heavy and traumatic, but something small, but still something that caused you a stressed reaction. And then with this image, with this experience in our head, we will check in on our motivation for the practice. We will just check how willing, how much we're willing to go into this practice of sense foraging. Because usually we would find a bit of like a bit of hesitation, or even maybe like we will notice that we don't want to do any mindfulness bullshit right now because there is this stressful events that needs solving. Just checking on that, just checking on how that feels, and setting an intention. Setting an intention is really, really important, especially if you feel like you don't want to do this practice right now. Because by setting an intention, we bring ourselves to this space of telling ourselves, committing that we will do this practice for our own good, just for a few minutes. That's it. And then we will check on how we feel again. And from setting this intention, we go into the exploration field, and we start the practice that I will guide you through. So we will be looking at different senses that are present, and um, that we can work with. And at the end, we will check in on our feelings again. Okay, so now I invite you to again adjust your posture. Maybe you want to stretch a little bit. Make sure your spine is long. You can lean back so that you are more comfortable, but it's very important to keep your spine straight for better focus and concentration. And for now, just keep your eyes open, do not close them. And as I said, step one is to bring the image or the memory of a stressful event or stressful experience. Maybe something happened today, maybe something happened recently. Just bring that memory to your space and focus on the way it feels or it felt before in that moment. What you notice in your body now that you are thinking about the stressful events, what emotions comes up. Maybe you can even remember how tense your muscles were, how heavy it felt in your heart, in your head. Just bring that to your attention. And when this is done, as the next step, check in on your motivation for this practice. Imagine that you're still experiencing this stressful event, and then check how motivated you are to go into the sense foraging practice and to go out of your head and into your body. Maybe you feel resistance, or maybe you feel like this is exactly the right thing to do right now. And once this is done, set an intention for this practice. Tell yourself that you will commit to this 5 or even less minutes to do this practice and bring yourself back to your body. And with this intention being set, first I invite you to bring your attention to your visionary field, so things that you can see around you. And as I mentioned before regarding to another practice, I invite us to notice a few things in the space around you, in your room, that you maybe have never noticed before. That you might find surprising now that they are there, because maybe you don't believe. you don't remember how they got there. Maybe the colors or the textures of objects that surround you, a particular order of things, the way they're arranged. And then you notice any sounds that are present. You may close your eyes at this moment to help you focus better. Any sounds, any noises that are present in your space right now. Any background noises, maybe people talking, some appliances humming, your own breath. And from there, you go into the field of smells and you notice what kind of smells are present in the space around you. Maybe it doesn't smell like anything at all. Then just also notice that. Maybe you notice that with focusing on smells, you deepen your breath and you start breathing slowly and deeply. And from there, you bring your awareness to taste. And just try to explore and see what kind of taste you might find in your mouth. Maybe some coffee taste from the coffee that you had before. Or maybe you notice that your mouth is very dry and it's time to drink some water. You might swallow the saliva a few times to trigger enhanced sensory focus. And finally, you bring your awareness to the field of the touch. And you notice what kind of texture you might feel with your fingers. Maybe if your hands are laying on your knees, then it might be the texture of the fabric. If it's laying on the table, then it might be wood or some other kind of material. Maybe you have your hands folded together and then you can feel your own skin. You might even want to move your hands around a little bit. Wiggle your fingers, maybe even massage your hands. See what feels good at the moment. And then drop all of it and stay in the stillness. The stillness of your body, stillness of your mind. And check on how it feels right now after this practice. How it feels on your body, how it feels in your mind. And if you notice any difference between how it was before, when you brought this stressful event to your awareness, and now after the practice. And then take a full breath in and full breath out. And slowly open your eyes if you kept them closed. Maybe you want to blink your eyes a few times to readjust to the lights in the space. Look around you again. Realize that you are here and now. You're sitting in this room. You're watching this webinar. And hopefully now you feel more grounded, more in touch with your body, more calm. And just as with the practice before, I invite you to reflect on this experience and share with me in the chat any things that you noticed during the practice and any difference that you might have noticed before and after the practice. And it's also okay to share that you don't notice any difference, by the way. Nothing wrong about that. Just, yeah, share with me any kind of experience, any feelings about this practice. And this takes us to the end of this webinar. So once you are done with sharing your experience with the practice before, I also want to open the discussion a bit. First, to ask you if you have any questions, but also to ask you to share your experience. Maybe you have your own techniques that you use to cope with stressful and overwhelming situations at your work. And also reflect on this prompt that they have on the slides and share in the chat, or maybe you want to open your mic and share live what mindfulness practices, 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter, at work that we covered today, you would like to try using over the next 7 days. Probably something piqued your interest, you found something, yeah, valuable, and you thought that it might help you. I would be happy to hear about that. And I will check the chats. Nice. Okay, I see that you feel more present in your senses. Amazing. Let me know if you have any questions. I see that we got over time, so I will wrap up quickly. But if something else pops up later, feel free to get in touch. I will be more than happy to talk about your experience with mindfulness, your experience with meditation, mental health, anything around this topic. I'm very curious about this topic, both professionally and personally. So really don't hesitate to get in touch. And I will take this last minutes to share that I will have other webinars coming up soon. So the next one will be on September 25, and we'll be talking about transformation through travel. Um, and we will be more particularly exploring topics like how to make a travel experience transformational and inspiring inner growth, and how we can create impact on the world through this intentional type of travel. And the one after that, we will be talking about values and mission. We'll be going back to the core of your business, or maybe you as a professional, if you don't have your own business but you have your career that you really care about. So yeah, we'll be exploring this topic of identifying core values and setting this anchor that really shows you the direction and guides you on your professional way. And if you are curious about other things that I do, I have the Conscious Business Compass program that I will be sharing more about soon. Then I have other kind of workshops and consultancy around the conscious business model, mindfulness, values, sustainability, of course, and the travel experiences that are designed with my local business partners in Kyrgyzstan and in North India. Both of them, they are not just travel experiences and not like retreats. They're more like expeditions, because they invite you to work on your inner journey while also connecting with the destination in a very mindful and intentional way. And that is officially it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here once again. Feel free to get in touch. Just jump on a chat, get digital or in-person coffee. I'm always up for connection. And take a good care of yourself. Have a beautiful end or continuation of your day. And thank you again.
Thank you very, very much. It was lovely. Thank you.